Hello, my wonderful readers, and welcome, or should I say, welcome back to Booked and Busy, the podcast where we analyze fantasy like it's real life, spiral over morally grey men like they owe us rent, and cry over fictional queens who could stab us, and we'd say, thank you. I'm Christia, your chaotic bookworm bestie, professional overthinker of character trauma, and someone who once told a real person I need time to emotionally recover after finishing Empire of Storms. I still regret nothing till this day. And today I think I'm a bit emotionally unwell. In the best way possible. Because we're diving into the entire Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas. You heard me correct. All of it. Now, this is not just a story about an assassin, it's about grief, rage, sacrifice, loyalty, friendship, magic, monsters, and falling in love when you didn't think you'd survive long enough to feel it. These are a lot of themes in one book, but genuinely, it's just perfect. It's just about a girl who starts in chains and becomes a queen who sets the world on fire. Isn't that just amazing? Who wouldn't want to read that? Now, don't worry, I'm not doing a play by play of all 8 books because we'd be here until next week. This is more of a thematic breakdown, like a character deep dive, a romantic spiral, a plot twist scream fest, a full blown emotional analysis of the series that broke us, and how it was totally worth it. Now, if you really, really, really want a deep dive of each single book, I would happily and willingly do that, but I just need to know that you guys would want that because I know it's a lot. So, before we start unpacking the trauma of the tropes and the tension, let's just set the stage up. Let's talk about the people that make this series unforgettable, because this world, it's crowded and very busy, so we need to split it up a bit. So here's a rundown of who's in the story of assassin, fae warriors, witches, and rebels that will absolutely ruin your peace and maybe your standards. So without further ado, let's jump right in. Okay, so before we just dive right in and start talking about the ins and outs of the book and everything, I just want to do a small character breakdown and just refresh our memories about all the characters, because at the end of the day, this is a 8 book series and there are a lot of characters to remember. So let's just go through them real quick. So we first have the main character, Celaena Sardothian, or also known as Aelin Ashriver Galathinius. So she is, as I said, the center of it all. She is introduced as the most feared assassin in the kingdom, a teenage girl rotting in a death camp who's offered a shot at freedom if she competes to be the king's champion. This was a lot because I remember when I was first reading the book and hearing about her time in the prison, it was honestly really harsh, and I was thinking this is such a strong girl for enduring all of that, and not even just enduring it, surviving it. But what no one knows about this girl is that she's not just a killer. Shocker? She's the lost queen of Terrasin, Aelin Galathinius, heir to a destroyed throne, survivor of a massacre, and walking contradiction. That's a lot for just I think an almost 18-year-old, if I'm not wrong. So she's arrogant, dramatic, funny, loyal, and unapologetically extra, and I think that's why we all fell in love with her right from the start. But under all of that, she's just grieving. She's terrified, she's tired, and she carries so much pain, which at this point, fair enough. She's had so much to endure at such a young age. Now, her purpose in the story is that she teaches us what it means to reclaim power, to burn down the narrative written for you and write your own instead. Her arc is about earning her crown, not through bloodlines, but through choice. She's obviously not perfect, which no one is, but that's what makes her really likable. She breaks, she lies, she manipulates, but she also loves. And when she loves really deeply. And not only that, but she saves the world by choosing to die for it without ever being asked to, which is genuinely so deep, especially if you read the book and you had to experience that. Like, that was genuinely a lot. Now, one of the second main characters that was introduced in the book series is Dorian. So he is the charming, flirty crown prince. He's a guy who basically took Celaena out of the like prison cell. So in the beginning, you're like, oh, he's totally the guy I'm gonna root for because he's kind. But like at the same time, he's also complicit and he's surrounded by tyranny and he's like more unsure about how to push back. So as the series unfolds, like we find out that Dorian finds out he has magic, which is crazy because his father, the king, is totally against magic and basically kills anyone who has it because magic means power, and the king, Dorian's father, just wants all the power for himself. So that was really scary because if his dad ever finds out, he would be in a lot of danger and risk. So, about his journey, it's about becoming a king he never wanted to be. Like, I feel like it's like two sides of a story. Like, you either really want to become powerful and a king, or you're just like the son who never wants anything to do with responsibility and ruling a kingdom. And he's that. He's he genuinely was like really sad in the beginning. Like, he was watching his best friend fall for someone else. he it's more also about like losing the woman he loves. It's also about being tortured and possessed, and he's still coming out on the other side gentler. Like, how does one come out of the other side gentler after going through all of that? I don't know. That's why he's like genuinely like such an amazing character. So his arc is very underrated because it's not loud. It's like quiet strength. So he represents hope, that you can grow up in darkness and still choose light, which is amazing. Another main character that we get introduced in the series is Cole Westfall. He is the captain of the guard. So he believes in rules, loyalty, and protecting his country. Like, I think these are the top three, like, on his list. Like, like even when like his country doesn't deserve being put first, he still puts them first. Now he falls in love with Celaena, but the truth is he falls in love with the version of her he understands. When, like, for example, her magic starts popping up, her past starts popping up, her powers becomes to rise, he just recoils and not just like, let's say, breaks up with her, he just like ignores it and just chooses to look at the good part and just basically puts on rose colored glasses. And at this point, like, did you really love her if you didn't love her faults? That's the thing with him. It was like he was such a good character, but like at the same time, like, he was really weird. So his journey is like mostly really uncomfortable. Like, he's not always likable for good reason. Sometimes he says the wrong things a little bit too much. He's very judgmental, but one thing about him is that he learns. So thank God for that. He's learning, I guess. So his purpose here is to show what it means to be wrong and then try to be better. So his arc, especially in Tower of Dawn, where he heals both physically and emotionally, is one of the most human things that I think the author Sarah J. Maas has ever written, because sometimes growth means admitting you were wrong about everything, and that's exactly what he did. Now, another main character that I personally really loved is Nehemia Itiger. So she's the princess from Aelwi. I'm really sorry about how I'm pronouncing these things. I'm really trying my best, but as you know, in fantasy, like some things are just not meant to be pronounced correctly. So from the moment she enters the story, just like you feel her weight, you feel her importance. She was never meant to be a sidekick. She's more like revolutionary. Like she's meant to be seen and talked about. So she's a Darlin, like to basically fight from within, like destroy the place from within and expose some things from within. So she becomes Celaena's best friend and her anchor, and I genuinely love that friendship so much. But one thing about her is that she's all angry. She sees injustice and she acts on it. She doesn't just sit back and do nothing about it. And when she sacrifices herself to push Celaena into action, it's genuinely just brutal because her death was actually tragic, and her death basically sparks is a spark that ignites like the rest of the story. So her legacy is very layered. She's very righteous. She was manipulative. She was right, and the grief of her loss never stopped echoing. And now that I look back at it, it makes so much sense why her and Celaena were best friends, because they have so many things in common, even though both of like their personalities were coming out in different timings. Now, another character that was then introduced, and I'm pretty sure one of our favorite characters for so many reasons, is Rowan Whitethorn. I don't really have to explain why he's like one of my favorites or possibly yours. Let's just like talk about it. He is the ancient immortal Fey warrior who becomes Aelin's trainer. He's brutal, cold, blunt, but he's also grieving. He basically lost his mate like centuries ago, and he's been numb ever since. So you're probably like wondering like, wait, why do, like, if you've ever never read this book, you're like, why do we love him then? Like, why do we like him? But however, when he does meet Aelin, he doesn't coddle her. Rather, he pushes her. He breaks her down, but then slowly, very, very, very slowly, might I add, he builds her back up, and she does the same for him, which is very sweet, I think. So their love story isn't about like sparks, it's about more about like survival. It's about choosing each other despite the trauma, not instead of it. So when he says like I will always find you, it's not just like romantic fluff. It's basically a promise made from ashes, and if you read the book you totally understand. Now the next character we have is Aiden Ashriver. So he is basically Aelin's cousin, but he acts more as like her brother. He's like a general, a legend for like many reasons, because he's won so many like wars and fights. And for 10 years he pretended to be loyal to the empire that murdered his queen, all to protect Tirsen in secret. So the entire time he was pretending to be loyal to like Dorian's dad, just to like also ruin them from within. So when Aiden and Aelin reunite, it's everything basically, because he loves her not because she's royalty, but because she's his family, and they're basically the only family they have left, because everyone else has died because of the king. So his arc is very messy too. He's very reckless. He lashes out. He feels betrayed when Aelin doesn't share her plans. He makes mistakes, but genuinely at his core, he is loyalty. Like, he's the kind that would burn the world down for the people he loves. And I think we can say that for like a lot of characters in this book, which I don't think many other books would genuinely have this, or their characters would really act like this. So the next character we have is Lysandra. So in the beginning, she's like the enemy. She's like a courtesan who was cruel to Celaena in their past. But when they reconnect, like you learn that she was forced into that life and it wasn't her choice. And then when she regains her shape-shifting powers, she chooses to fight. So Lysandra's arc is like very rage-fueled. She's beautiful, strategic, and dangerous at the same time. But she also makes sacrifices like no one else could. Like first of all, what, like pretending to be Aelin, I can't speak, Aelin, holding a kingdom together by wearing someone else's skin, like that's generally just not bravery at this point. It's like obliteration of self. So she basically just proves that femininity and ferocity can coexist, which is a very strong message, I think. Now let's move to Manon Blackbeak. That girl is genuinely terrifying. She's cold blooded. She's a cold blooded iron teeth witch when we meet her. Like, I think that by itself is like just like makes my skin crawl. So she kills without blinking, but she's also been conditioned, raised to obey without question, and her relationship with her wyvern, Abraxas, like basically softens her. And her friendship with Astrid deepens her, and her love for Elide and Dorian changes her. So this is all about like evolution and like watching her character become a better person and just not like say do. It's more about like choice. So it's more about her choosing who she wants to be, not what she was born into. Her scenes, especially when she defies her grandmother or when she mourns a 13, are some of the most emotionally charged in this series, and it was very like nice to read, I think. She's basically the anti-hero you'll never forget. Now I know we've already talked about so many characters, but I promise you we are almost done. We have 2 more characters left, and then we can finally jump right into the book. So Elide Locken, she's a human girl with like a twisted ankle and no magic. But she's basically overlooked and underestimated, but she is very lethal in her own right. So she basically survives Morath, and she manipulates her way to freedom, and she walks halfway across the continent with nothing but sheer will. Isn't that crazy, with a twisted ankle and no magic? Yeah. She basically represents the girls who weren't chosen, who don't have powers, and who were never supposed to matter. And she becomes a critical to the war effort. Like, good for you, girl. Like, good for you. Another thing is that she calls out Lorcan, and again and again and again and again, and I can't say again and again another time. And she proves that love doesn't mean losing your self-respect, which is so strong, because I feel like when you love someone, like you let things more like pass, and like you get hurt sometimes because you choose, like it's a very complicated thing, love, and like I'm trying to think of how to word this. Like with love, sometimes like you would let someone like step over your feet a couple times, but because you love them and they love you back, then you're like, it's okay, I will let this pass. But that's the difference with her. She doesn't let that happen, and she's very strong-willed. Lastly, our last character is Lorcan Salvatierre. He is ancient, ruthless, broken, and he's made unforgivable choices. Let me repeat that. He's made unforgivable choices. He fights for Maeve until he realizes what a monster she is. Like, thank you for realizing so late. And even then, he doesn't know how to stop being a weapon. Then comes the wonderful Elide, and it wrecks him. She sees him, challenges him, and when he betrays her trust, she walks away. That moment, it was so earned. Now, Lorcan's story is one of the slow redemption, and it's like being loved after you think it's no longer possible. But the thing is, he's not a hero. Like, I just want to make that clear that he's not a hero, but he tries to be one, and I think that what makes him matter. Now that we've like talked about all these characters, and I know there is a lot, I feel like let's generally just like jump into the book and start first analyzing Celaena turning into Aelin. And I think because there's a lot to talk about there, because at the end of the day, Celaena and Aelin are, although they are the same person, they are not. These two are completely different people stuck in one person's body, and the transformation is crazy. So I think we should just dive right into it. Okay, so now let's talk about the character arc and the transformation from Celaena to Aelin, and why they're basically not the same girl. So, if you've read Throne of Glass, then you already know that watching Celaena Sardothian become Aelin Galathynius is one of the most powerful transformations in fiction. And if you haven't read it, buckle up because I'm about to take you through emotional hell and back. So we basically meet Celaena in Throne of Glass rotting away in Endovier, a literal death camp. And somehow this girl is smirking through it all. She walks into the pages like she owns the place. She's cocky, sharp-tongued, flirty, and you're like, who is this girl? Like, how is she acting like this when she's in a death camp, being tortured? But basically, you soon realize that this is all a performance. Because under the sarcasm and pretty dresses, she's a girl who watched her kingdom fall. She watched her parents die and lost everyone she's ever loved. And she had to build a persona just to keep breathing. So Celaena isn't just a name, it's armor. So she had to become someone else in order to survive the grief, and God, is she good at pretending. Like, she literally lived so long of her life forgetting that she's basically Aelin. She thought there was like a different person, like she didn't know who she was because she was so good at pretending that she literally convinced herself that she wasn't Aelin. Like, how crazy is that? But everything changes when Nehemia appears. Or should I say when Nehemia dies. And suddenly, the mask and everything she's ever built to pretend like she is not Aelin and that she's Celaena shatters. The rage that pours out of Celaena is unhinged. It's feral. She stops trying to be palatable. She stops trying to be the assassin who can blend in. And for the first time ever, we see her completely unravel. So she doesn't just cry quietly, she burns everything down. And then comes Air of Fire. This is basically the real turning point. Celaena is no longer pretending to be anything, but she also doesn't know who she is. She's alone, she's drinking, isolating, pushing people away. Like, she's so deep in her pain, she can't see a way out. And honestly, in true honesty, she's ready to die. And she said it herself so many times. And then Rowan shows up. But not to save her, not to romance her, but to force her to feel. And that moment on like the mountainside when she breaks down, when she screams about what's happening to her parents, to her people, like, I swear to you, it's like you can feel her soul splintering through the page. It was genuinely so emotional, and the way that it was written was so impactful. And at that moment, that's when Celaena dies. Bye bye, Celaena. We don't know who you are anymore. Now we know Aelin. Aelin is born. But this is what I want to say, okay? Aelin is not just Celaena with a crown. Like, they are not the same girl. Like, Celaena was survival. Aelin is everything she built from the wreckage. She's strategic, brave, deeply flawed, and absolutely willing to walk into fire if it means protecting her people. But although she does all that, she still lies and she still hides things. She makes devastating choices, but like, one thing about her is that she's not a perfect queen, and I don't think you can say that. But she is a real one, and I think that's what makes her a really strong character. And by the time we get into Kingdom of Ash, like, I don't even know how to talk about what happens. Aelin is broken, like, physically, emotionally, magically torn to shreds. Like, this poor girl, like, she doesn't have one thing to hold on to. So she's basically stripped from her name, her powers, her dignity, and everything. She walks through literal hell and she still keeps going. And one thing about her is she never stops fighting. Even when no one knows what she sacrificed, even when it would be easier to give up. Because with her she's not just a queen anymore. Like that's not her. She's not just meant to be a queen dot. Like period. She's just fire and she's hope. So basically Celaena was the girl who survived. But Aelin is the woman who rose. Now that we've talked about Celaena's transformation, or should I say Aelin's transformation, throughout these like moments there have been like a lot of very strong themes that I think we should talk about, because this book is very theme heavy, as is all fantasy books, and I feel like we should at least skim through them really quick. So let's take a little break and regroup. Okay, so I think now is the time to jump into the important themes, or the recurring themes that we see in this series. So, one of the main ones is grief. So, one thing about this series that is very different than others is that it doesn't treat death as like a plot point. So, for example, Nehemia, Sam, Sorcha, Gabriel, and countless other deaths, they were just like very like in the moment and then just like brushed off in a way. Like it wasn't like such a main event other than like Nehemia's death that just like impacted the story in like a huge way. However, the grief is very heavy, raw, and real, and we can easily tell that each character carries it very differently. So, for example, like Aelin turns hers into fire, Dorian collapses, Manon hardens, Elide channels it into strategy. So, they are all very different, which fair enough because they're all very different characters. Now, one thing that I see in this book that I don't see in many other books, especially in fantasy, is female rage. So every woman in the series is basically angry, which is I feel like the opposite, because in other books, the even in fantasy, like the women are more like soft spoken, and then like little they have like their once in a while angry moment. But in this book, in this series, not the case. They're always angry. But one thing is that they are never told to calm down. Rather, they burn and they use this anger for the better. So they scream, they break this, and it's presented as like righteous. So, like, Aelin is angry, Lysandra is angry, Manon is fury embodied, just like all of them anger combined. And basically, this is what I think makes this series very powerful, because it gives women the right to be dangerous. Because why wouldn't a woman not be dangerous, you know? And another important theme that I see here, and a lot of them are also in fantasy, especially when they lose like their own family, is that they find their family throughout, as in like friends become family. So it's not about just blood, it's more about choice. So Aelin's court doesn't follow her because she's queen. They kneel because they believe in her. And like watching these people risk everything for each other is like this newfound family trope, and it's just so well done in this book. Another important theme that we see here is identity and secrets. So Celaena basically hides Aelin, as I've mentioned before. Dorian hides his magic, as I said before, from his dad. Manon hides her softness. Elide hides her strength. Everyone is just hiding something. Like, oh my god, like this is a book of secrets at this point. Like, it's like I'm reading someone's diary. But they're all learning to live with all their pieces in the real like live with all their pieces, like, is basically the real journey of this. Yeah, so these are the main themes that I saw in in these books when I was reading, and if you think there are other important themes, like, please let me know. And I'm thinking that the next thing we should talk about, which I'm pretty sure everyone is waiting to hear, is about the romances in these books and people who love each other, because who reads fantasy without romance, am I right? So let's just jump right in. Okay, so throughout the series, I would say there are like four main romances that made me feel like a lot of things. The first one I want to talk about is one of like the first relationships we see in the series, and that is Celaena and Cole. And in my opinion, like, this romance was never going to survive, but it doesn't mean it wasn't real. Because not everything that is meant to last, like, if it doesn't last, doesn't mean it wasn't real. Like, Cole basically represented safety for Celaena, like, more stability. It was like a version of herself she wished she could be. Soft, open, happy, and for a little while, like, it did work. Like, we're not gonna say it didn't. It did. But that scene where he gives her a book just because he noticed she was like lonely, like, I genuinely cried because like, to me, him noticing what she likes and gifting her something like this felt really intimate, and like, in my opinion, more intimate than a kiss. But Cole couldn't accept the whole truth. Not her past, not her power. And when he learns who she is, like, who she really is, like, as in she's Aelin Galathinius, like, heir to Terrasen, it's like he mourns the idea of her. Like, he just gave up on her directly. And that's when I knew they were over. Like, I knew he loved her, but he he just didn't know how to love all the fire she carried, which I think fair enough, because not everyone is strong enough to be with such a strong lead, female lead, and he's more of a softie. Like, okay, but but Celaena, like, she also kept shrinking from him, like quieting her rage and hiding her trauma. Like, she wanted to fit in his neat little world, and that wasn't fair to either of them. So I wouldn't say that Cole was in the wrong here, and I wouldn't say Celaena's in the wrong also. I just think they were just not meant to be, and they were just both pushing themselves and sacrificing some pieces of each other for the other person, and it wasn't going to last genuinely. So, one of the second ish relationships in this book are Dorian and Sorsha, and Dorian and Manon. So Dorian and Sorsha were very delicate, very fragile. It was like a breath of peace in a world of knives. Like, she saw him not as a prince, but like as a person, and she genuinely chose him. But her death was genuinely like gut wrenching. Like, it broke something in Dorian and made him harden. So the boy who loved books became a king who could wield death, which is crazy. Like, especially if you knew him in the beginning of the series. Now, after Sorsha's death, that was like when Manon was introduced, and it was like a potential that she was his love interest. Manon is basically, as I said before, chaos, power, lust, all of that at once. Their attraction was so explosive, and it was never just physical. It was like two people who didn't know if they were capable of love and trying it out anyways. I like that kiss on the balcony. Okay, the push and pull. Genuinely, it wasn't sweet. It was genuinely just like messy and crazy and just like amazing at the same time. But it mattered because it shows that even monsters crave softness, which is a very, very, very strong message. Now, after Selena and Cole, I genuinely was like, okay, like, is she ever gonna find love again? Like, is she ever going to give her heart to someone after what her and Cole have been through? And I was proven wrong, especially when she turned to Aelin, because I thought Aelin was gonna be this badass B word that just like it was just her and herself, but I was very wrong when I saw her and when I saw her like Aelin and Rowan interact. From the beginning, I told myself like these people are soulmates, but not in like the insta love faded May way. It was in the like I saw you at your absolute lowest and stayed way. Their bond didn't begin with flirting, it rather started with pain. They trained together, bled together, broke down in the snow together. Like he was very gentle and harsh with her at the same time, which is exactly what she needed. Like she wasn't scared to be vulnerable in front of him, which is really, really, really like it's very touching, especially when you know Aelin throughout the books. And one thing about Rowan is that he never tried to tame her. He rather like walked beside her even when she was like terrifying, and when he couldn't save her, he waited, and that's love. And that's something um Cole couldn't do. He just couldn't wait and accept the true person she is. Now, one of the last couples that I really want to talk about is Elide and Lorcan. This is like also definition of like slow burn, but it was also feral. Like Lorcan starts off as the guy like you hate, then he betrays them, and he's arrogant, ruthless, and cold. But like Elide, like she sees right through him, and she's not afraid to call him out. And she doesn't fall for him because he's powerful. Rather, she falls for him because he breaks. When he admits he was wrong, and when she walks away from him in that like chapter after everything is so powerful, because loving someone doesn't mean excusing betrayal. And that's what I love about these types, like these all of these different relationships in the books, because they're all like some sort of like healthy relationship, but they all deal with it in a very different manner, and you can learn lessons from each of these relationships. And yeah, now let's see what the next thing we should talk about. I think let's take a little break, regroup, and see what our next topic is about. Okay, after some deep thinking and analysis, I decided to do something different in this episode. So I know that I usually mainly focus on the main characters in the book because everything revolves around them. But because this series is very long, I think that the side characters do deserve some importance because the story wouldn't be the same without them. Because I think these are the ones who like stood behind the throne in the shadows or on the battlefield, basically bleeding and burning and sacrificing silently, and like their stories were very touching. So I think that we should obviously talk about them. So let's talk about Lysandra. So this girl turned into a sea creature, like a literal sea creature, basically to protect Aelin's plan. So she gave up her identity, her life. She risked everything, not because she wanted recognition, because she believed, basically. Her arc is about quiet, feminine rage turned into action. She's elegance and fire wrapped in strategy. And the way she keeps fighting, even when it breaks her, that's genuinely like real strength. Then an important like other side character I would say is Fenris. He's loyal but broken, and he's bound by Maeve's blood oath. And he's forced to watch horrors in silence, and yet he still found a way to warn Aelin. Like, okay, thank you so much. Like, you just helped us a lot. And that little single act of rebellion cost him everything. And he did it anyways. Like, I don't think I've ever loved the background character so much because, and another thing, like, he didn't just have, like, no spotlight. Like, when he did that, like, he genuinely had my whole heart. Like, I was like, thank you. Thank you for standing up for something that's not wrong when you know what the right thing is. Then we have Aiden. Aiden is a mess, period. But he's a very beautiful, feral, and dramatic mess. And I love him for it, genuinely. He's very loyal to Aelin, and it's almost unbearable. Like, he doesn't just fight for her, but he aches for her. Like, sometimes it gets a bit too much. Like, the moment when he finds out that she endured everything alone, like, the scream he lets out, like, it wasn't just grief. It was, like, guilt and devastation and helplessness, like, all mixed at once. And I was, like, when I was reading it, like, I genuinely felt like I was hearing the scream in, like, headphones. Like, he was just genuinely supposed to protect her and he couldn't, which is so sad. But yeah. Another side character, or not really side, but like kinda, is Man in Blackbeak. And I think she also might be like one of my favorite characters in the entire series because she like basically starts off as like this terrifying, ruthless, iron teeth heir and somehow becomes the most emotionally layered character in the story. Like she chooses love over legacy, she chooses a lead, she turns her back on centuries of blood to forge a new path, but like her grandmother calls it weakness, but we all know the truth that it's just strength. And her grandmother, like at this point, I'm just gonna call her jealous because like she's just jealous that she couldn't do what Manon is doing. Then we have our little Gabriel, our soft-spoken lion. He wasn't a perfect father. He wasn't even a present one, but in the end, like he showed up, he gave them time, he made one last sacrifice, and it genuinely just like wrecked me. Like his death was so fast, but like the impact from it stayed for a really, really long time. Now let's just like, now that we've talked about some of the characters, I think we should talk about the plot twists and like the moments that made me want to put down the book and just like breathe for a little bit because it was like really deep. Number one, Nehemia's death. Like, I didn't think that I liked her as much of a character until she died, and I felt her absence throughout the rest of the book. Like, like it was genuinely a lot. Like, she made such a big impact in such a little amount of time. Another thing is Rowan's past. Like, when he talks about his mate or like his past mate and his scars and the blood tattoo that he hides under his armor, like it was genuinely so much. Like how is he still like sometimes like a very positive person when he's endured so much? Like that was a lot. And then I just want to like really really talk about Aelin's sacrifice basically because she didn't just plan like a rescue, like she planned a goodbye. Like she tricked her court, she prepared for death because she knew like they wouldn't just let her go if they had the chance. Like she chose to walk into fire for everyone she loved and she did it alone. Like that's not just bravery, that's something beyond it. And those torture scenes, like oh my god. They weren't like gracious at all, but they were low-key necessary. Like as much as I hated reading through them, like they were needed for like some character and like scene building. Like wow. Like I think like now that I'm rethinking about it, like it was a lot. It was a lot. And like one like like one sentence that really stuck with me is when she screams like, "You do not yield." Like that was just like hope being screamed, like not her as a queen or as a warrior or a girl, just like hope. And I think this like line really stayed with me forever, because not because of what it meant for Aelin, but because of what it taught me. And it's like, you can break, you can bleed, then you can lose everything, and still you should not yield. Like you do not yield. So yeah, as I said before, I don't even think we really scratched the surface with this book because of how deep and detailed it is. Like, I genuinely tried putting as much as I can in this episode, but at this point, like, you either have to read the books to really get into the details, or we're gonna have to make like separate episodes for each of the books in this series, because there is a lot happening. Like, unlike other books, like there's not like a filler book. Every single book has so much, and yeah. So just like a small recap. um Throne of Glass like is not just like a fantasy series. Like, it's a story about like surviving what should have broken you, like, and finding pieces of yourself in the dark, about building a throne from the ashes of everything you've lost. Like, and one of the things about like Aelin is that she was never perfect. Like, she was very messy and loud and angry, but she fought anyways. Like, and she smiled with blood on her teeth. And she loved with her whole soul, and when no one believed her, she still believed in herself. And this series really reminded me that strength isn't always like swords and fire, and rather it's like choosing to get out of bed, for example. Sometimes it's about like forgiving someone who never said sorry. Sometimes it's even like letting people love you even when you feel like you don't deserve it. It genuinely like really taught me that being powerful doesn't mean being like invulnerable. Like, it means choosing softness without shame. It means not yielding, and when everything inside you is screaming to give up. So, to Sarah J. Maas, thank you for writing a girl who was allowed to be angry, broken, vain, powerful, and deeply, painfully human. Because I feel like that's so rare to see. And to every listener who's ever felt too much or not enough, Aelin burned for you. So you could remember that even when the world falls apart, you do not yield. Until next time, my lovely readers, stay booked, stay busy, and never forget you are a fireheart too. See you on the next episode.